This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? Thank you. Much appreciated. We have a great show to offset our rather crappy record, but we got it. We're going to move on, right? We move on. We conquer the next mission, and that next mission is entertaining you. And to that end, we have another great show. We have WWE Hall of Famer turned rugby advocate John Bradshaw Layfield. We have King Gift Egbelu, the inventor of words, Mike Friday, the three-time Olympic sevens coach, and George Hook, the Irish rugby legend. And we're all talking about the goodies that are on that board in front of you. So let's get to it. Gents, we don't have John here with us today because he's got his wrestling renaissance going on, a very successful one that you have to check out, folks. And it requires some global travel, and that makes it all a little bit tricky when we're trying to shoot here. But really, his wrestling commitments provide an excuse for not being here today and facing the fact that Leinster excised the ghosts of the Aviva, as last week's guest Shimmy said, and won the big trophy, much to both of your chagrin as well.
A broken clock is right twice a day.
I thought we did pick Leinster to win. We just didn't think they'd cover.
Well, this is a gambling show, so we go against.
It's a little bit of artistic license by you there.
Did you lose on the rugby odds on that pick?
Did we pick Leinster to win? Yes. Did we think that they wouldn't cover that spread? No, that's fair.
Fair enough. I get it. You don't want to have the minority ruling here because I was the only one that predicted that Leinster would win and get rid of all of the ghosts and everything would be fine and that they would cover the spread. So
that's the bit that you did say they would cover the spread. I'll give you that.
Thank you.
That's it.
That's all you get.
And I was mocked by you guys. I would have been drawn and quartered and tarred and feathered in the olden years for picking that, you guys. Yeah. But anyway.
Well, you got to get once run. I mean, you have picked them the last 10 times they have lost, but
right.
That's all good.
Well, okay. So wait a minute. Pick the favored team is a bad thing in this space? I don't know.
Well, I would probably say on previous form, then you're 1 right in 10. So yeah, I would say yeah.
I picked Glasgow.
I agree with you on that.
I picked Glasgow to cover the spread, and they didn't against Leinster. Anyway, Mike, you're in India. You're having some struggles with the sevens. You're in a monsoon.
Yeah.
Tell the fans what Delhi Belly is and how it can affect the rugby tournament, because it certainly affected us last week.
Yeah. Delhi Belly is basically us weak Westerners with a stomach that can't handle the spice from India. So we're playing every night, right? So we run the risk of waking up with a player or two with the Delhi Belly from the marquee. So we had Lucas last week, Lucas Lecamp, which took him out for 48 hours. And then we had Perry woke up 2 days ago, took him out for 48 hours. So again, every team is having to deal with the Delhi Belly effect on a day-on-day basis.
And this is 2 days out of what, the 5 that you're playing?
No, we play. It's a 14-night tournament, right? 1 game a day. So the long and the short of it is that they're not getting out. So Perry did get up and he did come to the game, and he had a crack to try and see if he could go. And he went.
Did you say he had a crap to try to see if he could go?
He had a crap or a crack, and he gave it a go, but he lasted about 3 or 4 minutes. It does take you out. When it wipes you, it wipes you. So I'm looking for a dose of Delhi Belly because then I might drop a few kilograms. But
all water weight.
I'm on my way.
Unnecessary though.
But the boys, it's a real struggle. It's a real piece, a real contingency bit of planning that all 6 teams are having to work around. It's just the nature of the beast.
That's so sad. We got the Singaporean, English American guy and the Florida guy who can't handle spices. Of all the people that should be handling spices, these two is specifically
a whole different animal over there.
There's Spice Boy and there's Spice. Literally, holy moly.
Now I only see Perry Baker struggling with Delhi Belly rather than scoring an iconic try running 100 meters. Now this has tarnished his legacy somewhat.
The struggle is real.
The struggle is real. So it's basically you're down for 48 hours kind of thing.
You can be, yeah. I mean, like again, some of the Spanish boys, a couple of the Spanish boys were up against it. Terry Kennedy's has been up against it. So yeah, it is just an adjustment, but it's one that probably you wouldn't normally associate, but it's a big piece. It's a big part of all of it, and that's part of touring. That's part of the whole competition we've got to deal with.
Yeah,
strengthen up them bellies, man. Strengthen up them bellies. All right, like look.
Mate, you've only got to sniff a little bit of tap water, and you're in a bit of bother.
That's fair. That one makes that is fair. The true monsoon.
Okay, gift. Changing gears. Your crusade against the Crusaders can continue again, and you bringing up a broken clock is right. This is what you're going to do because they're playing the Chiefs, who shouldn't be in there anyway. But if the Chiefs win, then you're going to say you were right.
Hey, look. All I'm saying is it all comes down. Everybody has their moments, all right? Even if their moment feels like it's about to get it over the edge, but then they do what the Bulls do, and reality comes crashing down.
The Bulls or the Blues? Because you're picking
the Bulls. Will do like the Bulls did against Leinster. The same thing will happen with the Crusaders against the Chiefs.
All right, fellas, let's switch to our first of our recurring segments. What caught your eye? What caught your eye, Mike?
Obviously, in the Premiership final, I don't know what it was, but apparently it was a national anthem with an electric guitar, which was, in my words, absolutely pony. Shit. Awful. Disgraceful. And then the second piece, again, in the modern game, is Dan Cole's been a stalwart of English rugby. He's gone for a legitimate charge down as a big old prop in the air. And yes, he has turned his body to protect himself. Yes, you could argue he's hit Finn Russell. But I'm not sure that's a yellow. And what really disappointed me was the simulation by Finn Russell, the gamesmanship of it all. And I think with that sort of gamesmanship, we don't want that in the game. It's not football. It's not soccer. So I think the ref should have, dare I say it, actually reversed the penalty for ungentlemanly conduct by Finn Russell. So that was a bit disappointing. And I was gutted for Dan Cole as well. You know, however many years, how many of the England caps, and his last minutes were sat on the sideline in the sin bin.
Yeah, but he's bleeding. He was in the sin bin, which is kind of cool. You know, it's not going to ruin his legacy like the Deli Belly has ruined Perry's legacy. It's not going to ruin it like that. You know, Dan went out being Dan. Hey, and what a career he had. Gift, anything that you want to bring, or did your eye not catch anything?
No. Look, man, Super Rugby is one of these places where I just find it to be a complete headache, in my opinion. You got in one hand, you know, Chiefs and Brumbies, where you have this Australian team once again like flopping. I don't know what's going on with Australia Rugby Union, but flopping again to another New Zealand team. But the Crusaders Blues game, okay, look, if you are up 14-0, you have no business having a team come back and score 3 tries in a row to get the win. All right, Crusaders were exactly who I thought they were. What I underestimated was the Blues being so horrendous at maintaining their own major lead. I mean, it's a conspiracy at this point.
A couple of quick things caught my eyes. The weather, hot, humid, and sunny in London, while it was pissing rain in Dublin for most of the match. And then we also addressed Mike's monsoon down in India. But more importantly, getting back to that Bath win in the Premiership, their first one in 29 years. And of course, Leinster excised the ghost of the Aviva, as Shimmy mentioned last week. And again, I just want to remind everybody that one of our panel members did indeed pick the Leinster match against the Bulls correctly against the spread. I'm not going to name me. I'm not going to say it was me. All right. Let's move on now to our other recurring segment, Player of the Week. And the nominees are Jordie Barrett with another big-time, big-stage performance. The decision to not start him versus Bordeaux looms even larger. Finn Russell, Bath's number 10. He was exactly what management envisioned him to be when they lured him to Bath, with a scintillating pick-off and 60-meter burst and pass to Ojomo for a huge try in the 50th minute. And Frank Lahore, the lock of Utah, with his 20-plus tackles, is usually in the grown-ass man category, but we're going to let him mingle with the backs. Mike, who's your player of the week?
Well, I just dug him out for simulation, but he was the difference in the game. I thought Finn Russell was mercurial as always with ball in hand, so he doesn't need to simulate. And the intercept against Pollard as well, right? Who's the other big game player with 50 yards, but then the cheeky audacity to put the ball back inside to Max Ajomo to score under the sticks. So for me, Finn Russell was selfish in that moment, and that was special, and he was special that day as well, apart from the simulation.
Which is fake diving or taking a dive for the folks at home that don't know what that is. Gift.
Yeah, look, if I'm going to hate on them, then I have to praise them whenever they do well. Got to give it over to Jordie Barrett. It took a New Zealander to go to Ireland for Ireland to actually not choke. So I don't know how much it really says about Ireland in that situation with Leinster. But hey, you know what? We'll give it all the same. Give it all the same. Give it to Jordie for helping the Irish get out of their own way.
Wow. I could create a three-way tie or break this tie or come up with an honorable mention like Ryan Baird of Leinster, who was man of the match in that game. But I'm not. I'm going with the Olympic Sevens coach, three-time Olympic Sevens coach, Mike Friday, picking Finn Russell as our player of the week. Let's move on to Gift, your favorite segment.
Grown-ass man!
Candidates are Emeka Ilone, the number 20 of the Tigers, with a season on the line and a man down. The super sub forced his way into the try zone with brute strength. Jack Conan, the number 8 of Leinster, the captain, set the tone early with a physical try, thunderous tackles on defense, and hard carries. And Guy Pepper of Bath, the number 7, even with a spectacular try disallowed, still man of the match. Mike, who's your grown-ass man?
I think this kid, Guy Pepper, I mean, he was apparently the Henry Pollock before Henry Pollock, and that's probably been a bit harsh. Henry's a great player, but Guy Pepper, if he'd have been fit all season, he would have been interesting in the England stakes and possibly the Lions stake. He was colossal again over the ball, work ethic, work rate, fantastic, amazing try that was disallowed. So for me, Pepper's the kid.
And he was just salty enough, Mike, that Pepper.
That's the boy.
Gift, who's your grown-ass man?
Yeah, since I'm never going to give Ireland it twice. I'm following with Mike. Guy Pepper, hey, look, man, you took it out on Bristol, and it's a flanker, man. That's got to give it to our flanker people, man.
All right, I would give it to Ilone, but I know I get bombarded because he's not a starter, but he had a great match. And instead, I'm going to go with Jack Conan, the number 8, the captain of Leinster, stepped right in, helped get rid of those ghosts, helped get Ireland off of that schneid, that drought, whatever you want to call it. They got the win.
He didn't do it last year.
Hardware.
He didn't even get man of the match. He didn't even get man of the match.
That's what a grown-ass man is. He doesn't care who gets the accolades. Okay, but unfortunately, depends on your perspective, Guy Pepper
is this week's grown-ass man.
All right, let's take a quick break. We're going to let George come in. He'll give us his goods, and then we'll bring you two back for our picks, the MLR and the top 14 and Super Rugby. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
Run like a sprinter.
Pass like a basketball player.
Kick like a footballer.
Tackle like a kabaddi player.
Score like a driver. Walk like a
winner.
Like a
winner.
And now, the Major League Rugby Play of the Week, brought to you by the Rugby Network. In the 38th minute of their quarterfinal versus Houston, LA's Gonzalo Bertrano produced a perfectly executed downfield kick to Reese McDonald, who navigated his course magnificently for what would have been an exceptional play on a dry surface, let alone a rain-soaked muddy grass field. And that is your Major League Rugby Play of the Week, brought to you by the Rugby Network. And we're back, and once again, we're lucky enough to have Mr. George Hook calling in from Dublin. George, welcome back. How are you?
Every day now is a bit of a bonus when you're in your 80s, and then you get increasingly grumpy. And more importantly, for the purpose of this program, you don't enjoy the game of rugby as much as you used to.
Wow. Wait, what's that? Oh, we can't have him on because he's in his 80s? All right, let's get right to
Headlines with Hook.
First one up. Did Leinster silence the critics with a dominant win and great Croke Park crowd?
Maybe and no are the answers to that. In that, if Leinster had beaten a very good team, I think they might have silenced the critics. But they beat a rubbish team.
Wow.
I mean, the Bulls were rubbish. Now, let me tell you why they were rubbish, okay? Leinster have this defense coach called Nyemba, who's a South African guy. So what we actually saw was two South African teams playing in the final. And Leinster were a better South African team than the South African team. So what do I mean by this? The South African game is based on a really fast heads-up defense. So the defense speed up to cut down the space. It relies on a lot of kicking, and it only passes the ball every now and again. What happened on Saturday was the Bulls were just awful. I mean, sure, the Bulls kicked the ball, but my granddaughter would kick the ball better than the Bulls did. On the other hand, Leinster kicked the ball very well. And remember, they'd lost Hugo Keane, the fullback, early in the week. And then on the morning of the game, they lose Jamison Gibson-Park, the most influential player on the team. And Luke McGrath steps up and was super. Now, the other point was that Jake White quite rightly said, I've got the Bulls here, but there's a lot of South African internationals that I could have, but I'm not allowed. Whereas Leinster have pretty well the Irish team. True. But not only have the Irish team, they got New Zealanders and South Africans and Australians. They're the United Nations. And I have to say, in his departure game, Jordie Barrett was magnificent. I mean, utterly magnificent. And I think he goes home to New Zealand. I think he'll have learned something, but he also showed the unbelievable mistake of not picking him from kickoff in the semi-final of the European Championship. So, South Africa were terrible. They were out-scrummaged by Leinster, for crying out loud. The Leinster line-out was better, for crying out loud. And then Leinster really scored almost all, except one, which was a superb Jordie Barrett try, from mauls close to the line. So the kicks didn't touch one of the line-out mauls, scored a try. That's great. But for a nosy 4-year-old who adores the game and remembers that it was the number 9 past the number 10 and number 10 past the number 12, that doesn't exist anymore. Leinster kicked in a ratio of 1 kick to 2 passes. 1 kick, I repeat, to 2 passes. The South Africans, who were awful, were actually marginally better. They were 1 kick to 3 passes. They won. Give them credit for it. The Bulls, after all, look very good against the Sharks.
A Sharks team that had 15 Springboks on their match day 23.
Yeah, it wasn't a game. To be honest, the Bulls were never in the game, ever. They were almost from the kickoff. You never thought the Bulls are going to be in this contest. And They had a scrum half and out half. They were unbelievably bad.
So, in summary, the critics were sort of silenced on this, but not quite.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not one of the critics. I think if you have an Irish province who consistently over a decade is in the final stages of every competition, I don't think that's failure. I just think we have too high an expectation, but it's not failure.
All right, so we kind of combined two headlines in that one. So we have one left, George. The British and Irish Lions versus Argentina.
The majority of players in the touring party are Irish, but only one Irishman has made the cut for Friday. A couple of interesting things. I would think he's probably going to pick two Smiths, Marcus Smith at fullback and Finn Smith at half. He's going to pick Mitchell at scrum half, but it doesn't mean anything. And you've got to take account of my age. Like, the Lions were once an expedition to the far corners of the British Empire to play rugby, to be away from home for 3 to 6 months. And now this is just a commercial exercise. Can we make some money out of this? Of course I'll watch it. I will watch Argentina with interest because in the right set of circumstances, Argentina are going to be real performers in the next 2 or 3 World Cups. So I'll be watching them with interest.
Well, I'll say this. You might get more because Leinster finally won that big one. And the carryover of emotion might, fans are like, okay, let's continue the rugby party.
No, Americans are like that.
You know what? That's your stock answer for everything.
It is.
That
I've been listening to you now for about 25 years, and you haven't changed a bit.
That is our conclusion of our recurring segment,
Headlines with Hook.
Thank you, George Hook.
Thank you.
Your cleats? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now. And we're back, and we're going right to MLR picks. First one up, New England, -5, hosting Chicago. Mike.
New England, Jed Melvin. He's my man.
You've been sticking to Jed Melvin, and it's been working out very well for you. Gift.
Yeah, I think New England has been good in this first round of the playoffs, but I think Chicago's more primed after last year to be able to do it. I look for Chicago to cover on this one.
I'm looking at a nail biter, but that home field advantage and not having to go anywhere for New England is huge. So I think New England wins, but I think it's less than 5. I think it's a squeaker. Then the next one, Utah, hosting Houston. Utah, the home favorites by 4. Mike.
Well, let's hope they don't have Carver at halftime this time. But I'm going Utah, and Utah to cover as well. Utah to beat Houston.
Gift.
I think Houston's still on a track to get vengeance for last year. Houston to cover and beat Utah.
I'm going to go with Utah, specifically because Houston is on a short week after that cancellation because of weather on Sunday and having to play that Monday afternoon game. I'm going with Utah. Next one up, we got a final in the Super Rugby. Grand final in Super Rugby. Crusaders, home favorites, -1.5 versus the Chiefs. Mike.
I'm going to go for the Chiefs. I think they'll rise to the occasion. Mackenzie will come good. And I think their All Blacks will show up and they'll do a job and contain Barrett and his boys. So I'm going to go Chiefs to win and cover.
Gift, we know what you're doing.
You don't know what anything though. What are you talking about? Look, the Crusaders have been on a run. They have miraculously made it past all these teams to be able to get into this position, found a way to be third in the league, and have overperformed at every angle that they're supposed to. But the Chiefs are a sleeping giant that have
Except
been
when they lost to the
conquered.
Blues in the playoffs and then got the lucky seat, whatever you want to call it, and got to play again.
Apart from that,
Proving
yeah.
my point. So proving my point. So proving exactly my point. They've been lucky to get into their position, and they've overplayed their position the entire time. But the Chiefs are just too powerful. And I'll add to that, I still think that they're going to run over from last year as well, too.
I'm going to make this as easy as possible. Crusaders.
Crusaders, blah,
Going to
blah,
win.
blah, blah, blah. Barrett brothers, blah, blah, blah,
Another
blah,
championship.
blah.
No, not the Barrett brothers, because Jordie plays because Bowden plays on the Blues. Gift. We're going to take a break and come back with our top 14 and picks of the week after this.
From New York City comes America's longest running and most popular rugby show. The biggest names in Major League Rugby, MLR highlights, and big match previews. Rugby Wrap-Up presents MLR Weekly, made in New York City. Hey, U.S. fans, you can tune into every match live on Flow Rugby. How do we know that? Because we're on there all the time. And we are back. Gentlemen, we're winding down, but first we're going to France for the top 14 for their semifinals. Toulouse at home, minus 14.5 versus Bayonne. Mike.
I think Toulouse are going to have too much for Bayonne, and I think they'll cover the 14.5 as well. So Toulouse.
Gift.
I have no faith in any French team on the road other than Toulouse and Bordeaux. So in this situation, Toulouse to cover because Bayonne is going to not care for some reason.
Can't argue with that logic. I am going with Toulouse minus the 14.5. Bordeaux minus 7.5 at home versus Toulon. Mike.
I'm assuming that the magical back three is playing, and I'm assuming that that back line is going to be fully barred up. So I think Bordeaux will just have too much firepower for Toulon. They will definitely cover the 7.5.
As I said before, the only two teams that play on the road and at home are both at home. Bordeaux is going to absolutely dominate Toulon because Toulon is going to French it up and not care, but eat their wine and cheese once they get back to the locker room.
I'm going with Bordeaux. Minus 7.5 versus Toulon. Bordeaux at home. I agree with Mike. Going to run him out of the house.
I literally said the same thing.
Yeah, but I agree with Mike. I don't agree with you. And now John's favorite segment, Picks of the Week. Johnny's not here. What's your pick, Mike?
I think this is a home team weekend. So I think all 5 home teams will win. How do you like that?
Let's go!
That is just gutsy. That is just gutsy. Gift.
Looking at Chiefs Crusaders, over 40 points. Over 40 points combined.
I'm going to go with a slugfest in New England under 44 points between Chicago and New England, the hosts. And on that note, we're out of time. I want to thank John Bradshaw, Layfield, the WWE Hall of Famer turned rugby advocate, King Gift Egbelu, the inventor of words, Mike Friday, the 3-time Olympic sevens coach, George Hook, the Irish rugby legend, and thank you for tuning in. Please check out MLR Weekly, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, sign up for our weekly newsletter, and please join our American Red Cross blood donor team.